our addiction's not gone. We are addicts.
Mm-hmm.
We're in recovery, but I'm always going to be an alcoholic and an addict.
Meanwhile, everyone else around me sees the process that I'm doing, don't believe that I deserve it. And they're not wrong. I have a daughter at this time who I'm not showing up for when I'm supposed to get her because either I'm too high or I want to go get drugs. I was all in when I was using. So early on, I had to be all in for my recovery to keep me away from that. A little over 7 years ago, like 16 people and my daughter, that's probably who would have showed up to my funeral.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not the case today.
Hey everybody, welcome. Good Hustle, episode 17. John Henry.
Zach Williamson.
Really excited today.
I know. I'm excited too.
I mean, we're excited about every single episode, like we're like two little children, but
We're babies.
I'm excited.
but today we have a good friend of mine and somebody that's been cut from the same cloth I have. And this man is the true definition and meaning of experience, strength, and hope. Well, I want you to do your little thing first.
Oh, yeah. So before we dive in, though, the thing that helps fund this podcast is our real estate career. If you didn't know, John and I were both realtors here in Central Pennsylvania. So if you know anyone who's looking to buy, sell, or invest, please give us a call.
Yep. So joining us today is Danny Albert. Hello, Danny.
Hi.
What's up, Danny?
So Danny is going to share his story of his struggles, his course of redemption, and his creation of one of the most influential local nonprofits. And this nonprofit could have an episode within itself. And we're just really excited to have you here today, Danny.
Appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm excited to learn because I don't know much. I try whenever it's John's guest, like John's connection. I try not to dig too deeply, unless it's like a public figure or something. So I'm excited to learn from you today.
Yeah, and I was telling him last night, like, we're going to do these questions, and I kind of want to just leave it because when we share in our 12-step programs, really we're just talking for 30, 45 minutes, and there's typically no interruption. But today we kind of want to change that up a little bit because this is different. This is a podcast, so we want to kind of ask some questions as we're going through the process. But I think he wants to start with some stuff.
Yeah. So
Awesome.
Why don't you just tell us a brief background about like your family and where you come from and things like that?
Yeah, I always like to introduce myself. Danny Albert, person in long-term recovery, and what that means to me is I haven't had a drink or a drug since April 30th, 2017.
Wow.
So,
congrats.
yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
You just celebrated 7 years, 3 days ago.
Just celebrated it.
Wow, yeah.
So, super stoked to be on the show. Fun fact, I challenged John to a 50 push-up challenge, and I never saw those push-ups. So.
I did 36 2 days ago, but not in a film.
Is that working out with you want?
After this is over.
Yeah. Okay.
50 push-up challenge at the
That's
end
why
of
I
the
actually
video.
came on the show.
Yeah, he did, and when I looked at the video, I was like, "You bad."
He came back for the.
I was like, "Listen, if I just hold off long enough, I'm not gonna have to do anything." I was like, "I got to go see Juwan Chisholm first, and that guy's been hooking me up. So can I have like a week?" I'm just kidding.
No, he's awesome. But yeah, I grew up in Steelton. I know we have had some Steel High alumni on the show, Alex. But my dad was worked at Appleton Papers, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom. And I watched my dad work every day, and not really so much be there to talk to, but because he had to put food on the table, right? And after 19 years, they let him go. And after 20, you get a severance package, all these great things. So I watched this man kill himself for a job, only for them to do that. So things that came along with that, family dinners when I was a kid didn't look like sitting at a table and eating dinner, right? It was sitting in front of a TV, watching a TV show. Mom's labor of love was cooking, and she would bring the food out to us, and we would sit there and we would eat and watch TV. So, a lot of the things that I grew up with and were normal, for me, aren't really as normal for other people, right? But I wouldn't trade any of it for the world, right? Also, big into sports.
Yeah.
My last name's Albert. Albert's in Steelton. We're known for coaching basketball and baseball. So I put this expectation on myself that I had to be awesome at basketball. And I wasn't awesome, right? Like I was good enough to be on All-Stars in 6th grade elementary school. But, when everyone else kept growing and I stayed 5'9" in the 6th grade, that's...
Were you a big man or a guard?
I would always be center or forward.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to work at 5'9". You got to get them dribbles up at the end there.
No.
If you want to keep
Single
going.
A, maybe.
Yeah.
That's true, maybe, yeah.
Yeah. But that was, I put this expectation I had to be great, and I just never lived up to that expectation. And no one else put that on me. I put it on myself.
Yeah.
Right. I have a younger brother named Shane. Coming into this, I was thinking about all the things that I went through growing up. There was one time where we were sledding, and a kid tried to clothesline my brother. And he took this sled, and I couldn't catch up to him, right? And I remember going home to my dad, and my dad said, "I'm taking you to his house," right?
Oof.
Like, you stand up for your brother. Mm-hmm. And when we got to that house, the dads talked it out, and the kid never came out. But, that level of, like, family and standing up for your brother and your family was very deeply ingrained in the heart of, Steelton and in my family. Some other things that went along with that, drinking was like really socially acceptable back then. My family owned a roller inn in Steelton, Dickie Albert, and drinking at a young age was not uncommon. And I don't want to fast forward too fast, but I'll keep it in. The first time I tried a substance was with my dad, right? It was natural ice. I thought it was terrible.
Natty Ice.
It is terrible.
Yep.
It
is.
That's the drink of Shippensburg University, unfortunately. It's disgusting.
I think that's in the yearbook. They do like how much was gas that year,
Yeah.
how much was this, what was the number one
I think they
movie,
sponsor the front page of the yearbook.
I think they do.
It's just Shippensburg University and then Natty Light right below it or something.
It's
Might
Pabst
as
Blue
well.
Ribbon at Millersville.
That's a step
cheap.
up.
Yeah,
That's
it is
a step up.
We saw that stuff everywhere all the time. Yeah.
But yeah, no. And first time I ever tried marijuana was the same thing, right? Like, my parents parented the best way they knew how.
Amen.
Right. And the way I see the world today, my daughter's growing up in a different generation than what I grew up in. So I'm trying to parent the best way I know how as well.
Yeah.
And, my way of parenting is making sure she remembers to be a kid and speaking up about how she feels, right? Because I want her to know that I've been judged, so I'll never judge her. And I've been through the hard, so I can help her through the hard.
Yeah.
Right? And those are the things that I do in the generation that they're growing up in. And for my parents, I feel like it was more, they knew alcohol and marijuana, and they wanted me to experience it with them because they didn't want me to be peer pressured by someone else. Meanwhile, I felt the peer pressure from him. Right?
Right.
And I love my dad, right? And I don't think that I know he didn't mean anything, wrong in that way. But here's the thing. I said I would never drink again, and there I am riding bikes to go crayfish. My buddy's dad would give us beer to cook the crayfish with. We wouldn't use it to pour it in the water for the crayfish. We'd drink it. Right. And this is elementary school.
Yeah.
When I had to be home when the street lights came on. Yeah. So, I'm introduced to substances in elementary, right? Now, those same people are successful today, didn't struggle with addiction. It's still mind-blowing to me that some people can drink half a beer or leave half a pitcher.
Yeah.
I don't get it. I'll never get it.
I can't see that, like at a restaurant, somebody gets up and walks away from a half glass of wine or a beer that's that full. Like, and I know you and I are cut from the same cloth when it comes to that, and we're the only ones in this room that way, not necessarily that have ever felt that way, but the bottom line is, like, one is too many, 1,000 is never enough. And I can't figure out the point of mentally. Could you ever figure out the point of drinking if there was just 2 drinks? Well, what's the point?
Yeah, no.
It don't make any sense.
Yeah.
So for us, it's like we're drinking to drink.
Yeah.
Like, we're going to get blacked out, drunk, do what we want to do, and escape to some place.
Yes.
I think that's the key of it right there, John, is like, I think And I think if everyone's being really, really honest with themselves, I think everyone has an escapism pattern of some kind. It's just whether it's super destructive to your life or not.
Yeah.
So some people find escape in reading a book. You know, in the afternoons after work, they read a book for 3 hours and like that's their escape time. And no one looks at that bad. Like, oh, you're reading, that's great. Even if it's a fictional land that doesn't exist and you're wasting 3 hours just like you would be on TV or whatever, right? But for some people, it's drinking and you know, I've seen. It's so interesting you're talking about this because like I've never experienced addiction in that way. So I come from a Christian background. My dad was a pastor, so I have a very different background, and I love my parents so much. But my dad, he came from a background sort of like you did, where his family struggled with a bunch of addictions. So he was the first one to break the family curse, if you want to call it that. And so I was the first one to experience what it's like to be on the other side of breaking the family curse. And so to see, you know, my dad and myself, of course, have our own escapism habits. Like I love video games. I love watching Netflix at night. And there's things that we get into to escape. But, you know, of course, it's very different than addiction. It's very different than, you know, drinking or smoking or things like that, you know?
I agree. Yeah, and to paint a better picture, my family's amazing, right? And I felt like the black sheep because my cousin's super successful. No one struggles with addiction, right? My grandpa, never seen him have a drink. Never saw my grandma either. So I always felt like I wasn't like everybody else. And with that, you know, some other things early on is my dad said what happens in the house stays in the house. People around don't need to know anything that's going on in this house. And, you know, that's the essence of stigma in society, right? But also at the same time, you know, as I would go on later in life and I would realize that I had a problem, like the way I looked at males around me was like, you successfully drank. So I felt like a failure or weak if I said that I had a problem, right? And that's just kind of the dynamic in what I saw. Whereas now, like I know real strength is when you speak up about the things you're going through. Like that's real strength because that's hard to do, right? But some other things, you know, my goal was to start varsity in 9th grade in baseball. So I put the work in, right? 8th grade going into 9th, I went to every practice, every workout, and we had this scrimmage. It was freshman and sophomore versus junior and senior, and I hit a grand slam in that game.
Nice.
Right? And I would go on to start varsity in the 9th grade.
That's awesome.
At Steel High.
That is awesome.
And the things that come along with that, though, like
Pressure.
ego.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, you know, here I was starting 9th grade. There was a 12th grader was started last year in 11th, would go on to be sitting the bench in 12th. So there was 3 of us in 9th grade starting varsity. So, you know, but the other thing is, that's the first time I realized when I really apply myself to something, like I can do it. And another thing I wanted to do was get straight A's. And I remember I would read the encyclopedia to try and know all the words, right?
You don't know what
words.
Do you know what an encyclopedia is? You're a little younger.
I mean, they used to have them in the library, right?
Did they?
Like
Yeah.
the big
Antique
ones.
stores?
Yeah, antique stores.
Probably
All the
not at this
dust.
point.
Yeah, right next to all those little like old dolls and figurines and all that. Yeah.
Now we have Google.
Shut up. Shut up, Zach. I'm just
I'll ask ChatGPT what an encyclopedia is.
Okay,
Like, don't
cool.
worry.
Okay.
I'll figure it out.
But yeah, no, I would get all A's, 1B, and then straight A's, all A's, and 1B. And there's another time where I, you know, realized that when I apply myself, that I can do these things. The issue is, as I would go on in high school, marijuana use was prevalent for me, and partying on the weekends turned into waking up and needing a substance.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job. I didn't have money. So I would do any means necessary to supply my substance use, right? And that would get me into trouble. And what I realized is when I apply myself, I can do those things in a good way. I started doing it in a bad way, right? And I would rob houses, right? And I would drive around the neighborhood, see the house that the grass wasn't cut, the car was still there. Maybe the newspaper was outside, and I would go back to that house and would go in it. And there was one time where we went in and there was a gun under a bed, and we took the gun, right? And, I was fearless in many ways. But I also didn't care about the harm I was causing other people because I was so focused on getting the next one, right? At that time, it was marijuana and alcohol.
Yeah, so that's something that, like as just a bystander to someone who hasn't been addicted to substances, like that kind of stuff amazes me that that's actually true. That you would be able to look past all of the potential consequences and what you're actually doing on a day. Like I would think like I could never be that obsessed with something to do something like that. But
it's not hard. Like when you get to the point where Danny and I've been, and I can tell you, like I loved cocaine. And I can tell you every day, I mean, I would do it 5 days a week for many, 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 many years. And every time I was going to pick up, my thought was, I wonder if I'm going to die tonight from a heart attack.
Yeah,
and you just still drive. You cross that bridge and you're like, yeah, I'm still going to get it. Like, it don't matter. Like, that's how strong addiction is.
Yeah.
Like, it owns you. It owns you.
That's
and
crazy.
One of the things, and we'll let you get right back.
No.
One of the things while we're sitting here sober, 7 years, 15 and a half, whatever, our addiction, and they say this in 12-step programs, is sitting out in the hallway right now doing push-ups. It's getting stronger every day. Our addiction's not gone. We are addicts. We're in recovery, but I'm always going to be an alcoholic and an addict. And that's what some people that aren't in the program or aren't, they don't understand that either. Like, this doesn't just go away. We're always going to be that person. Go ahead.
Yeah. And that's the scary part, right? Like, I'm an all-in kind of person. And when it's in a bad way, I'm a danger to everybody.
Yeah.
So, if I'm out somewhere and we're at a wedding and someone doesn't know who I am, right? And they say, have a drink, let's take a toast. Like, no, you don't want me to do that.
I
It's
say the
best
same
for both
thing.
of us.
I say, no, I don't want to drink. I want to try to keep my pants on today.
Yeah.
I don't want to not wear pants walking around this restaurant. Like,
Right.
I say that to servers. I'm like, no, you don't want me to drink.
That's the John
Yeah.
Henry answer right there.
It is.
That's
it is.
funny.
But it's
That's
true.
right. It is true.
They don't know us.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yep. And that's the case. Some other things that, are probably good to bring up. We had a thing called Character Night in the National Honor Society where you go on stage and speak in front of an audience full of people. And I decided to be Milton Hershey.
Oh,
Needed
cool.
to be someone famous.
1903.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the year that Hershey chocolate was
My
founded.
wife is actually related to Milton Hershey.
Really?
Like, very, very distant. But
Yeah.
Their family has been around here for a long time.
Yeah, her last name's Kit Kat. Her maiden
Yes. Nickname Kitty. Yeah. Listen, I don't forget.
Her name is Jolly, like the rancher.
name. Yeah, she's okay. Sorry, Lissy. Shout out Lissy.
She's gonna hate this. Shout
Lissy
out
Kitty, Lissy Kitty Cat. All right, Kit Kat. All right, go ahead.
But
Over.
it's one of those things.
So Milton Hershey. Yep.
Yeah, they voted who should go last. All right, they wanted the first best to go first. The first best to go last and the second to go first, and they voted me in to go last, right? And I remember we had a school board meeting where they were bringing back Rick Binder, and Rick Binder is the huge winning coach at Steel High, championship teams 1998, 2002. But there was a period where I don't know if he took a year or two off. My memory's not the best when it comes back to, going back that far. But all I know is this was the night he was being reinstated as a coach. The place was packed. It was in the library. And they said, raise your hand if you want to invite everyone out to National Honor Society to the character night. I did not raise my hand. And then they said, all right, Tony, Dan. I'm like, come on, man. And when we're doing practices, principal comes in on my practice, right? So, reason I bring that up is because when you stand on stage in front of a group of people, and at the end of it, I got a standing ovation, right? And maybe it wasn't so much me; it maybe it was for everybody, but I felt like it was for me. So, in my mind, it was for me. That there's another time where I feel like, I can do anything I put my mind to again. But it's like that good and evil. Like I could do it in a good way and I can also do it in a bad way. But other things that come with that is whenever I would go drinking with my friends, I would always say, I'm the best drunk driver.
Oh, I'm
driving.
I was good.
People loved it. I bet you my friends loved that. Right? Oh, yeah, he can drive. He's the best. Yeah, you are the best. Right. But it's just wild going back to those times.
Yeah, and it's scary because I even talk about that, like, because I'm first off, there's no such thing as a good drunk driver, so there's a little bit of sarcasm there.
Absolutely not.
But my friends thought I was the best drunk driver because I have one eye. I didn't have double vision, so they'd be like, John, you
is that how it works?
Well, you get double vision when you're drinking. So they'd be like, John, you drive, you only have one eye, so you don't get double vision. Like, that was literally like, and I thought that was smart. Like, you know what? You guys are right. Like, and this is, I had one eye because of a drunk driving accident. I didn't have one eye because I was born that way. Like, so how stupid can you be? And it's just like, that's the stronghold of this. And it's just been fun to watch. Like, so we know each other. We don't know each other really well, but I've watched your growth. And this is the cool thing about social media. I think there's a lot of negatives with it. Well, there is, but there's some really cool things. Like if you follow this man, like on Facebook or any social media, and you see the stuff that he does when it comes to the nonprofit and him being a person of influence for sobriety and hope, like it's some of the coolest stuff you've ever seen. I've got to witness that through social media, and it's been so cool. Like when I called you 3 days ago, and I was like, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" You're like, "Yeah." And I was like, "You've been waiting for that call?" You're like, "Yeah." That's awesome. But it was the 7-year anniversary. I didn't even know it, and I felt terrible. I ended up messaging that.
But you called him on the 7 year?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Like that was just,
what are the odds?
That's
crazy.
awesome.
And then I was on the way to see another buddy of ours that we both know. Like
that's
just
crazy.
Yeah.
Small world, but just to see your growth. So you get through high school. Like my senior year of high school, I drank about 15 to 20 beers every night. Thought that was normal behavior. Like that's how I slept. I didn't know any other way to sleep. Like, I mean, you get that.
Yeah. Well, you know, when I'm talking about all these things, and same with John, we're just talking about our experience and what we've been through. Not trying to, you know, make it glamorous or anything, because it's not, right? There was a lot of pain that I know John experienced and that I've experienced. So, you know, I would skip classes. I had the world figured out in high school. I thought I knew everything. If I didn't know it, I changed the subject. I had it all wrong, right? But I would skip. I would go to homeroom at the beginning of the year, and I would say, I'm going to the computer class, Mr. Brigham's. And to the point where the homeroom teacher would just check me off in the morning, right? Once I had it there, I would skip class until I had to be there at third period. So I would come in at third period for math, go to social studies, English, leave again, right, during lunch and study hall. Come back because I needed to go to the next important class, whatever it be, science or whatever, and then I would leave for the day, right? And this is what my senior year looked like. And in that process, I got a full ride academic scholarship to Millersville University.
That's awesome.
Right? Because a couple of things. I'm a really good writer. My spelling's not the greatest, but I'm a great writer when it comes to, you know, being able to articulate thoughts and feelings. And I have this skill of looking at something the night before, going in and passing a test.
Yeah.
I don't know. But those things led me to the full ride academic scholarship. Meanwhile, everyone else around me sees the process that I'm doing, don't believe that I deserve it. And they're not wrong, because I'm not putting in the work and doing things the way you're supposed to, right? Manipulating the system.
Yeah. But we're good at manipulation.
Yeah.
That's something I still struggle with.
Yeah.
Like manipulation, just, you know, just things like that. Like there's part of these issues that we have. And I'm not speaking like that you and I are identical. You know, we each have our own things, but the issues that we do have where, you know, I can use things to my advantage. And, you know, sometimes I have to like take a step back and be like, dude, you're just old John without alcohol or drugs. Knock it off. Like, and I have to do that. Like, and I get that way, and I don't like it, but it's cool to recognize it now.
Yeah. And the other blessing is we have great people around us that see these things when we don't see them.
Yeah. We just talked about that with, with Jillian. Like sometimes you need an outside person to say, listen, Like, cause you think you're right all the time.
Yeah.
A real friend or somebody that really cares is going to tell you the truth
Right.
about it. Like, and
I always thought it was kind of funny that almost everyone kind of collectively believes they're right about everything, but everyone disagrees about everything. So like, there's got to be somebody wrong, like most of the time when you really break it down. Like statistically speaking, that's a really dumb way to look at the world. You would think. But
so how did college go?
It's like a kid in a candy store, right? Like I made it through one semester, skin on my teeth, and then the next one I failed out. Well, I didn't even necessarily fail out. Like I stopped going to class, so I quit.
I did that.
yeah.
But yeah, same thing. I was partying every night. There was, Tuesday night. Oh, well, Twisted Tuesday. Got to do it Tuesday. I just started making stuff up, you know.
Wacky Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thirsty Thursday. Freaky Friday.
Yeah.
I'll keep going.
Absolutely.
I was getting nervous when you got to S. I was like, I know some of the words that are about to come out. Like Sexy Saturday or whatever.
Right. So, but here's the thing. When you fail out of something like that, my parents picked me up from Millersville, drove me home. I'm in the backseat of my car. And here I am, proving everybody that ever doubted me right. I didn't deserve it. They're right. And I used to look at other people that live with their parents in their 20s and look down on them. Yeah. And here I was going back to live with my parents, right?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I talked to you about the means and ways I was living. I would get a DUI. I would go to court for accomplice to burglary. I'd go on probation, and at the age of 17, here I was, Schaffner Juvenile Detention Center, right? I would be on probation from 17 to 31, basically on the whole time, off and on,
no doubt.
Brief periods. But, the substance went marijuana and alcohol. And now when you're talking in college, cocaine use, Oxycontin, right? And I would come home to work at a place called Crockenberry's restaurant.
Oh, yeah, JT Crockenberry's.
Yep. Yeah.
What's that on? Union Deposit?
Union Deposit.
I remember that.
Yep. Crockenberry's. And I had an ankle monitor on, and I was a bar back. And that's my start in the restaurant industry.
Yeah. And now today you're the GM over at the Melting Pot.
General manager of the Melting Pot.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's been a long journey.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about, I want to say 31. So your sobriety date, April 30th, you said 2017.
17, yep.
And you went to, you did go to rehab, right?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. This was your question. I'm sorry, Zach. Yeah. So you went to rehab, but this wasn't your first time?
No, it was my second time in 2017.
Okay.
So I'll go back to the first time, right? So after Crockenberry's, it would go on to, they would sell the place. I would go into Charlie Brown Steakhouse in the same building.
Yep.
They would sell that place. But in that time, I went from server to a lady named Kia Crowder who believed in me and gave me a chance to be bar manager. And they would sell that place, and I would go help open up the Texas Roadhouse on Union Deposit.
Oh,
yeah.
I love Texas Roadhouse.
Yeah.
That made me so hungry.
Can you get me biscuits?
I got fired from there. I can't help you out.
Oh, it's so good. But Cactus Blossom.
Oh, yeah.
It's so good.
Texas Roadhouse is consistent.
That's the thing.
amazing.
It's
They are
consistent.
consistent.
Yeah.
Amazing, yeah. Shout out Texas Roadhouse.
They do, yeah, absolutely. And they hold standards. I was fired. But then I would go to TGI Fridays, and I would just do this shuffle of getting fired from jobs and all of those nevers. I'd never been fired from a place because of my substance use. Started coming into fruition.
They're called yets.
Yeah.
We get a case of the yets.
Yep.
Just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it hasn't happened yet.
Right,
and we talk about that in sobriety and in 12-step programs. Well, that never happened to me. Yet. Keep going, buddy. See what happens.
Yeah.
Keep going. I'm sorry about it.
I didn't see the yet back then.
Right.
But I would go on to get a job at the Harrisburg Melting Pot restaurant. And I was a server there. And they would give you a ticket. Well, we give you a ticket if you're a server. It says what table number it is, what they're celebrating, first and last name, have they dined here before, and the manager or the host gives that ticket to the server. Well, it got to the point where they were giving me my ticket over this bathroom stall, right? Because I was using it in the bathroom. And at this point, my substance of choice turned to heroin. Wow. So I was IV using in the bathroom at work. Wow. They didn't necessarily know that's what it was. They just knew I was in the bathroom way too many times, and I didn't look well.
Right.
So the manager pulled me into the office. He said, listen, you have two choices. One, you can go to treatment, and we'll do everything in our power to help you in that process. Or two, you're fired.
Well,
and I said, I'll go to treatment.
Yeah, you don't have much of a choice there.
Yeah. And I remember I walked home from Paxton Street to my parents' house on 2nd Street in Steelton. And I thought about where my life had come. Here I was going to treatment, feeling like a failure. I have a daughter at this time who I'm not showing up for when I'm supposed to get her because either I'm too high or I want to go get drugs. And I knew I needed to do something different. I went to that Gaudenzia Common Ground for treatment. And meanwhile, I had so many reservations. I told my dealers that I was going on vacation just so that way when I got out, I had that there just in case, right?
Right.
And I would go to this facility. It's a 28-day facility, but I told everyone it was 21, and I left early. I AMA'd.
And by the way, guys, if you're enjoying this episode of the Good Hustle podcast, please go ahead, leave a like, subscribe on the YouTube. And also, we are on Spotify and Apple Podcasts now. So if you want to listen without the video part, you can do that.
Yep. And if you're looking for any real estate needs, whether you're buying, selling, or investing, please contact Zach or myself. Our numbers are below. Back to the podcast.
When I got out, my parents were proud of me. Boss was proud of me. People around me were proud of me because they thought I completed it. But while I was in that facility, there was a guy named Tim, and he shared his story, and he talked about the things that he grew up with and how he lived. And I was like, man, this guy's just like me. I didn't think there was anybody in the world like me. No one drank like I drank. No one used like I used. No one manipulated people like I did. And there he was. I asked him for his number. He gave it to me. And that was my first glimpse of someone that I felt found a way out of addiction, and that maybe it was possible.
There's that hope is contagious thing again.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's contagious, dude.
that was the first glimpse of hope. And I would come back to the melting pot, and the owner at the time said, if you just stay the way you are now, you're going to have the world given to you. I would go back to using and getting fired.
How quickly?
Yep. Within 2 weeks.
Okay.
Wow.
Maybe a week.
Okay.
Maybe a week.
What did they say? Like after, I guess they would have caught you or something happened or.
Yeah, I don't remember exactly, honestly, but they just knew.
Yeah.
You know.
I was laughing because I don't remember. There's a lot we don't remember.
Yeah,
That's probably for the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That owner would go on to sell the place like 3 months later, or 3 to 6 months later, and I thought, man, maybe that's what he meant. Like I had an opportunity here, right? And I regretted that.
Wow.
Same thing. We run from our feelings to substances, and the pain. I went deeper, and I would end up getting kicked out of my parents' house. My mom almost watched me die on the bathroom floor. She walked over to wake me up, and in that moment, I never woke up. She would go walk away to call 911, but could never dial the number because she felt in that moment that's when I was going to die, and would walk back over to wake me up. And I don't know that experience. I know it because my mom shared it with me. You know what I mean? The things we put the people that care about us through. My dad the next day said, I don't even know I believe it probably was the next day, but he said, you can't live here anymore. I don't want your mom to have to watch you die. And I got kicked out of the house. I'd move in with my daughter's godfather, Buzz, and gave me a chance. And I would leave substances in the bathroom with his daughter sleeping in a room near it. He kicked me out. The things we do, we're not thinking about the other people around us at all. Like I wasn't thinking about the other people around me.
There's only one person that matters.
Yeah.
It's yourself.
Yeah.
That's how we feel.
Yep. And another person would let me move in. I would steal from him, stole his power tools, stole his change, kicked me out. And I got to the point where I was living out of my Chevy Blazer. Wow. That was it.
So you were just in.
No one else.
Wow.
In that process, my daughter's mom moved to Philly with my daughter to get as far away from me as possible in many respects. So the best way for me to put it, my mindset and feeling, like I didn't care to be alive, but I cared too much about getting high to want to kill myself.
Yes, I know the feeling.
You know what I mean?
Crazy. I can't, like, as a guy who's never been through this, that's such a crazy mindset to me that you would, that's how you'd feel, that you'd feel so ashamed of yourself, but you'd have to keep going and keep getting high.
Yeah.
Like that's
Well,
wild.
There's a thought that goes behind this, and it was actually, it's written in one of our books, and it's an alcoholic changes their goals to match their behavior, and a non-alcoholic changes their behavior to match their goals. Mm-hmm. So we would change our goals. Like my goal was like astronaut, doctor.
You could still be an astronaut. If
Yeah,
you wanted.
well, maybe you might need to.
Yeah,
I don't know if you need 2 eyes.
I don't know either. Probably. But then, like our goals just get less and less and less because we also feel worthless and undeserving. Like, so let's talk about a little bit about early recovery. So you go to rehab a second time.
Second time.
So one of the things that I've struggled with, and I used to struggle with really heavily, especially in early recovery, was feeling like I deserved anything that I was getting. Did you ever feel that way? I did. Like if something good would happen, I'm like, here comes the shoe.
Yeah.
It's gonna drop because this is too good for me. I do not deserve this.
Yeah. Well, I also looked at all the things that I didn't have. I was so focused on all the things that I didn't have.
Yes.
That
Now
I
I have
couldn't
too much
appreciate
crap.
anything.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest blessings here, 7 years later, is if you would have asked me 7 years ago, where would I have seen myself in 7 years? I wouldn't be able to tell you where I'm at now. It's just phenomenal. But I can tell you I have all the things that I didn't have back then, and none of it's material.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of the material.
Yeah.
It's the friendships.
It all ends
My
up in
daughter.
a junkyard.
All of those things. And I had to have someone else show me how to live. And I had to realize that I didn't know everything and become receptive to other ideas. And I was at such a vulnerable place, I was willing to do all of those things at that second treatment facility.
Yeah.
But, the catalyst to that second treatment facility, I got a job at the Cork and Fork restaurant. The late owner, Nick Laus, I told him that I needed help. All right. I had a retail theft charge pending, one of my many charges, right, over the course of years. He said, go take care of yourself. Don't worry about your job. It'll be here when you get back. And I felt comfortable going to treatment again. That's where I went to P18 Challenge.
Where is that?
Roersburg.
Roersburg. Where's that?
Roersburg. All I know is that my daughter's mom drove me up there.
Okay.
And I would have never knew how to get back
I was
if
gonna
I
say,
wanted.
that sounds like
Which
the
is-
middle of nowhere.
those are the kind of places they should go.
Yes.
Long driveways,
Yeah.
a moat. Those always help.
Yeah. Yep. There was no thoughts of leaving because I wouldn't know where to go.
right.
But yeah. While in there, there was a guy named Dylan, and he would read from 12-step literature, and he would do it every day. And I sat next to him one day, and I said, will you read it out loud? And I'd close my eyes, and I would listen to it. And I started doing that every day. And he suggested that instead of moving home, because all of my brilliant ideas never worked out, I was going to move home.
Yeah.
Right? And he said, you should move into a recovery house where you're around people that are like-minded on the same path as you. And not where you live, where you can get substances basically down the street any day that you want it. I was like, that sounds like a great idea. And I called my mom and I let her know. And she said, if you don't move back home with us, we're not going to support you. Now, this is why. The way they saw it was if they watched over me, I would be okay.
Yeah.
Is the best way they knew how to parent.
Yeah.
They didn't understand. But also, I kept all of my feelings inside. I never really shared any of it because my dad wasn't really there, because I didn't, really necessarily want to share it with my mom. I didn't share it with anybody. I got into writing, and I would write all my feelings down in a notebook. And that helped me out in that second treatment facility. But I would take that suggestion. I would do the harder choice, right? It would have been easier to go back home where I didn't have to pay rent.
Right.
I moved into a recovery house. Meanwhile, I have $1 to my name, $1 in my pocket. And my daughter's mom paid my first week's rent. Her mom put groceries in my fridge. And I went back to Cork and Fork, and I would walk from Lemoyne to 2nd Street.
Did you live on the one on the main drag there?
New Insights.
The one on the right, that. If you look at it from the street, it's on the right-hand side. There's an alley right beside it.
It's right across from, I lived at the one right across from Becker Chiropractic.
Yeah, I know that house.
Yeah.
I've been in there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I donated a TV there once, and I think a couch or something for the guys.
They still have a dresser of mine and a lamp. And I just left it there for him, because I knew I didn't have anything.
I've just let you know, I've held in crying like 16 times during this because it's just like, it brings all the emotions back.
Yeah.
Like I remember going there and just going to that house and seeing these guys that are in there, because that keeps it real green.
Yeah.
Go back and look at somebody that's 7 days, 17 days, 36 days. The one key thing is that I understand, and I always tell somebody that has time like that, it's like, there's no difference between you and I. The only day that matters is today. Mm-hmm. So just because I have so many blah, blah, blah moons and, trips around the sun doesn't mean anything. Mm-hmm. The only thing that matters is we're both sober today. That's it. So like, I try not to get egotistical about time because we can get that way. Like, oh, I got 15 years. Like, doesn't matter. They say I'm always closer to my next drink than I was to my last. And I say that like, because if you start living with resentments or things like that, you're always going to be closer to your next one. And I got to remember that because I don't want to be, makes me sick just thinking about it. But anyway, yeah, so you're at the recovery house.
Yeah.
$1.
$1.
So that's less than a McDouble these days. Those are like $1.30.
But listen, I just came off of a run where I was using T-shirts as a pillow and sleeping in the back seat of my Blazer and going into different hotel parking lots so that way no one would see me in the back. Right? And like all of the wild things that come with that. One time I washed up at the Strawberry Square bathroom, right? And after in recovery, I realized there was a bathroom right next to it that had a door that shut. Never saw it. You know what I mean? Like, I just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like animalistic kind of mentality.
Yeah.
But when I got out, that late owner, Nick, he said, call me every day. I want you to call me every day. Because I didn't know how to live without a substance. I didn't. And my highs were high, my lows were low. Someone would come into the house and used. I'd call Nick and I would say, my daughter comes in this house. Doesn't he know? He'd be like, calm down there, killer. This was just you like a month ago.
Right.
And it would bring it back to reality because I didn't see things in a the correct lens.
Right.
But it was awesome because here it is, a guy that created Cafe Fresco, owns Home 231, owns the Cork and Fork, taking time out of his day to talk to me every day. It was phenomenal. And I would go on to get a home group in my 12-step program. And, there was different goals. I know you talked about the goals. I wanted to chair my home group, and you needed a year.
Yeah.
But I was at 3 months, I want to chair. But don't you know my passion? You know what I mean? Don't you know?
Those rules don't apply to me.
Yeah. The other things are, I don't, for me early on, the pain was great enough. I was done. I wanted my daughter in my life. I set goals for my 90-day, 30, 60, 90-day. I remember my 90-day goal was to take my daughter to Hershey Park.
Oh, that's awesome.
Right?
Awesome.
I love Hershey Park.
Listen, the time,
you guys can take me to Hershey Park too.
Right? Hershey Park's awesome. and obviously it's ingrained with me with wanting to be Milton Hershey and things like
there
that.
you go.
Yeah.
But the time before that I took my daughter to Hershey Park, I went in the bathroom to use, and lost her. Right?
In Hershey Park?
Yes. And like 3 minutes later, a lady walks up with my daughter, and my daughter's crying. Can you imagine the trauma that you put on a kid like that? Now, she was 4. I mean, so it's like, I want to take her there and do it and like just enjoy Hershey Park, because I needed a substance for everything. Like, I needed a substance to have fun at Hershey Park.
I know.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It might not sound, but
To me,
that's crazy.
that
right?
sounds crazy. Yeah.
That's where it was. Like, I needed
I need
substances
Dramamine
for
there,
everything.
but that's the only substance I need because I get sick. But
Really?
anyway, I was just kidding.
Every time I'm at Hershey Park, I need the blue slushie. That's what I need. They're so
I
good.
can't
The Jolly
stand-
Rancher slushies, those things are
I
bad.
haven't had
We
one.
should film.
We should try it.
We should do one of those episodes with you see a blue mouth the whole episode.
I was thinking
That'd be
we should do an episode where you're pushing me around like in like a baby stroller, and I like get a slushie at Hershey Park, and
Let's do it.
I can be like,
That would
my
be
dad.
So,
cute.
did you guys go?
Yes. And I remember, when we were in front of the Super Duper Looper, and my daughter is 5 at the time, and I told her to put a brave face on. She was scared to go on the Super Duper Looper. And here's the thing. I put her hair in a bun. I don't know if she was tall enough to get on it, but I would put her hair in a bun so that way she'd be tall enough.
Just enough, yeah.
Right? And she got on the ride. We rode it, and I thought, here I am asking her to put her brave face on. I need to be brave and do what I'm doing too. I can't just ask my daughter to do it.
Yeah.
And that helped me. Those things motivated me. Server at the Cork and Fork asked the owner, I want to be a manager at your restaurant. He said, absolutely not. I'm like, okay. So, a month or 2 goes by. I'm consistent. And here I am walking to work from Lemoyne. I'm talking snow, talking rain. Doesn't matter.
Pike?
No, this is the one down in 2nd Street.
Wow.
This is
So
before.
you're crossing the
Yeah. I would go down
City
through
Island Bridge.
I would always
Yeah,
go
go
to
down
City
that.
Island Bridge.
Yeah.
That was my move. But so many things I learned in that process that you don't realize you're learning. Hard work, dedication, showing up on time, being all of the things that wouldn't have described me in the past. I'm now like building for myself. I asked him again if I could be a manager. I said I could provide value to this, and he said absolutely not. And then I started thinking, man, the one person that believes in me isn't giving me a chance. Another month goes by, and he says, you still want to be a manager? All right, I'll give you 1 or 2 days a week. Now I know he wanted to see consistency.
Yeah, even in adversity.
Yeah.
That's the big one right there.
Yeah. And also, I'm calling him with all of these crazy thought processes early on. I'm sure he's not like, let me give him the keys to the restaurant. But I had to prove myself. And just because I told, my daughter's mom that I was never going to use again, didn't mean she believed that.
Yeah. It's actions, not words.
It's actions.
Right.
Actions big time. And the first Christmas, I had my daughter for 1 hour at the recovery house, and I got her one of those beanbag chairs.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And then she left, right? And the rest of the day, I thought about all the things that I didn't have and where I was at and how I wanted my daughter more. And that's painful, right? And I made that decision that I would not feel that way again. And now, and the next Christmas, I talked to, I don't want to jump too far ahead, but I talked to a guy named Doug Rao with Blessed and Appreciative. They do great things with their organization. And one of them's go to Bethesda Mission and give back on Christmas, right? And I was like, if my Christmases don't look the way I want them to for me, why not try to make them better for someone else?
Amen.
There you go.
That was my thought process on Christmas. And now, on holidays, we do something for somebody else.
Yeah, it's important.
And that's even with being able to have my daughter. Yeah. And I took my daughter this past Christmas week out into Tent City, and we gave back items. Awesome. We give them hoodies and warm blankets and things like that. But more important than any item we give somebody, it's taking time to let somebody else know that they're not alone and they're cared about.
Yeah.
And like the genuine conversation.
Yeah.
On a day that someone else feels things that I felt before. And what I thought was just me coming in, I realized there's so many people like me. Just like John keeps saying, like, I mean, I felt that. I felt that.
I mean, you ever hear somebody share it, and you go to a meeting or whatever, or anything, and you're like, wow, that's me. But I want to kind of step into the big thing that we really wanted to talk about is Hero in the Fight. So I don't know a ton about it, but all I know is that it's something that you created. It's basically a nonprofit, and you go around and you share your experience, strength, and hope with people in sobriety. Like, how did this all happen?
Yep. So, right in Lemoyne, there's Negley Park, and it's about 90 days after the Hershey Park trip. I walked up to Negley Park, and I sat on a swing that overlooks the city, and I thought about how I didn't want other people to go through what I was going through, right? My family couldn't support me at the time out of protection for themselves. And I'm just talking like my parents, right? Like other family would always share encouragement and things like that, right? But keep in mind, I felt like the black sheep, right?
Yeah, sure.
And when it came time for me to say that I needed help, and I said back to the first treatment facility, my dad talked to someone and they said Gaudensia. Like they didn't know, right? And I felt like I couldn't even say that I was struggling to him. So that stigma piece, right? And I wanted other people to feel like if they're struggling, that it's okay and that they're supported. So all of those thoughts are through my mind. And I said, you know what? I want to create a shirt to wear my recovery with pride.
I literally remember when this shirt came out.
Yep. Be a hero in the fight against addiction.
Yeah.
Was the shirt. And we raised money through the shirt sales for Recovery House scholarships to the RAISE Project. And that September, I had a backpack. I put shirts in my backpack. I went with one or two other guys, and I had flyers that said you could buy the shirts at Val's Cafe, the late Val Spring. That was in Lemoyne as well. And I walked up to the RAISE Project table, and my cousin Rachel at the time worked there. She was the first person to ever take me to a meeting. Shout out to Rachel. She just celebrated, I believe, 12 years. The day after my sobriety date is hers.
So May 1st.
Oh, nice.
It's going to be May.
Isn't that wild? There's so many miracles in that, week. But if she doesn't,
It's really good.
Thank you.
Just like Jillian.
Sorry.
well, you got to do that at Hershey Park while pushing the
There you go.
cart with you in it.
Yeah, there you go.
That's perfect.
So you go with this backpack.
Yep, and I tell them what I wanted, we're trying to do to help them, and they gave me a seat at the table. Basically, they said, "Yeah, put your flyers here." They didn't know me, right? And we had our first event in Halloween at Val's Cafe. It was a Halloween costume event, gave out free food. And there was someone in a 12-step program that was having a Halloween party, and she changed her date to the next day because she saw that we were having this event. Like, that's awesome.
That's so cool. Yeah.
I didn't feel it as deeply back then because I was just... Wow, so passionate that I just didn't want to feel those things that I felt. And I didn't want others to have to feel those things. So that's where it started. Then I created a Facebook page. The name was Hero in the Fight. So no one knew it was me. And that's the way I loved it that way. Because I didn't necessarily want the notoriety for it. I just wanted to do good things, right? And created this, so many friends list. It was a lot. And then Facebook needs to verify you. And I ended up losing that account and switching over to a Facebook group page, Hero in the Fight, where people can share their experience, strength, and hope, and just support one another. John and I sit here and we talk about us and how we felt struggling with substances. Yeah. The amount of people that we affect is insurmountable, especially in recovery. But when we're using substances, we harm the people that care about us most.
The most, yeah.
I'm lucky to be sitting at this table today.
Amen.
There's a lot of people that aren't sitting at a table today that went through what John and I went through.
Right.
And they leave family members to grieve and mourn, and their holidays aren't great either.
Yep.
Right.
So Hero in the Fight isn't just for individuals in recovery, it's for family members. It's for communities. And what started as a seed has blossomed out. Now, I get asked a lot of times, what's your vision for Hero in the Fight? Where do you plan on seeing yourself? And da-da-da. The fact of the matter is, I allowed it to, we allow it, because it's not just me. I have so many people that help with Hero in the Fight. It's just blossoming into something so beautiful that I don't want to confine it. I just want it to just blossom out.
It's like organically just growing.
Organically growing.
And if you start looking at this, like people find this group, like if you ever need help or you're struggling or you know somebody that's struggling, just look at this group and look at the camaraderie. Look at how many people care about you. Like, I can't tell you, I've been sober for blah, blah, blah years. When I tell people I'm sober all the time, I wear it on my sleeve. Nobody ever goes, ugh.
Yeah,
I had one person go, ugh. Everybody, strangers, that's amazing. Congratulations. Like, we want to share our experience, strength, and hope with you because we want to help. Like, and how many times since you've been sober have you been messaged by people you would never expect looking for help?
A lot.
1,000.
A lot. And here's the other thing. Being a restaurant manager, there are other people in restaurants that don't know where to turn because of the culture of the restaurant industry.
Restaurant culture stuff.
They message me.
Wow.
And it's awesome to be able to help be that vessel. But it's the stigma we're talking about. Also, where are the resources, right? Every county has one. Dauphin County Drug and Alcohol does an amazing job. I necessarily wouldn't have walked into Dauphin County Drug and Alcohol. I might not even pick up the phone and call. But I'll message somebody I know that's been through it, that's in recovery.
Exactly.
Because I feel more comfortable. And I can send a message and not have to talk on the phone.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it's a beautiful thing to be able to be in that, kind of position to help navigate and, plant a seed in somebody else, but also help them in their process as well.
Yeah, that's one thing that I used to tell my youth group all the time is, a lot of the kids these days are struggling with anxiety and depression, things like that. And one thing I always used to tell them is, if you're not feeling very happy today, go help somebody else.
Yeah.
Because it'll blow your mind how quickly that can cheer you up. Like, ironically, like it makes your life so much better to be able to help other people.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
The last
Okay. So the amount of people that you're helping with Hero in the Fight is really, really cool. And it's obviously something that you put a lot of time and effort into and everything. So how are you balancing your own recovery, helping others, and running the melting pot and doing all these things at the same time?
Yeah. So it's just like anything in life. When I invest in myself, everything else gets better.
Yeah.
And it's this balance of, you want to put all your energy into the restaurant. You want to put all your energy into your organization. But when you can slow it down and be present, things that I do, I meditate every morning. Today,
I do not. I suck at this.
and here's the thing: when you feel like I'm on a 20-day streak, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's only 20 days because it's pretty good. Missed one.
Pretty good.
But sometimes you can string up the misses. And it's just like, I know myself. Like, I was all in when I was using. So early on, I had to be all in for my recovery to keep me away from that. Now, I still have that same tendency to want to go all in different areas. And the best way for me to describe this is, let's say your business. You want to be in the top 100 in the state.
Sure.
Right? And you're number 7. If you focus on that number 7, your chances of getting to number 1, if you just solely focus on that number, you're not going to get there.
Nope.
If you focus on what you're doing inside of the business that got you to number 7,
Yep.
and focus more on the inside, that's how you get to that number 1.
Exactly.
Right? And that's the same way for me in life. I don't necessarily need to put a finite ending on where I want to be. Alls I know is when I take care of me and I go to my meetings, and for me, I am the PI chair of my 12-step program. That helps me bring meetings into 2 different treatment facilities. Helps me stay in recovery, right? Personally, on a personal level. Through here on the fight, I do things for other people and I give back, not looking for anything in return. And I get so much more in that process. And I do that, and that helps me stay in the circle.
Yeah.
And when I do those things, work is stress-free because I'm operating at a level where I don't focus on the negatives. I look for the positives. Solution-based mindset. We could focus on the problem all day.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But when we focus on the solution, that's how we tackle the problem.
Yep.
The solution is inside of me, in everything in life.
Yeah.
And I've realized that over time. And that's what I do for my personal balance. And I can go one way or another. And I have those good people in my life that pull me up.
It's amazing that we got these tools from sobriety, rehab, and 12-step programs. These are tools that help me every day. If I'm wrong, and I know it, I'm much quicker to apologize and correct it than I've ever been before. I don't like not being a good person. And I used to, just the way my dad used to look at me or my mom, and, it just wasn't a fun way to live. I did want to focus on one thing that you said that I think a lot of people really struggle with. This was really early on in the podcast. In like-minded, so one of the reasons that I think we do so well together, such different backgrounds.
Yeah, very different.
So we can bring so much to the table from different viewpoints. I think it's so helpful for us because pastor's kid. Oh, it's not a pastor's kid. It's an idiot.
And pastor's kid, by the way, doesn't always mean good things.
No.
But in my case, it did.
It did. But one of the things that you said that I think a lot of people struggle with, because a lot of people struggle with their past. They can't get past it. They can't. And they live with resentments. But not everybody's childhood is great. Okay? A lot of us have really tough childhoods. But one of the things that you said is that our parents did the best they could with how they knew how to.
Yeah.
They didn't know any different. My mom was 19, 20, 21. She had 3 kids. My dad was 21, 22, 23, had 3 kids. How could they have done they did the best they could with what they knew how.
Yeah.
But to say they were put in a great position is really difficult. And for people to not understand that about their parents and just hold on to resentments, it's going to hurt. And it's going to hurt for a long time. And those resentments, they eat you up. They ate me up.
Yeah.
And to be able to live in recovery and, to work on my recovery while living in recovery, it's the best thing that could ever happen to me. I always say, God's number 1, sobriety's number 2. Everything else, I got nothing without those 2. Nothing. Nothing. And to see what you've done in 7 years and to think about where I'm at, it's just getting started for you, buddy.
I agree.
It's just getting started.
Yeah.
And
I hear that a lot.
And with your daughter,
which is awesome.
Yeah, and the relationship that you're building with your daughter.
Yeah.
This. So you got sober when she was 4 or 5, right?
Yep, 5.
Okay. She's not going to remember these bad things.
Yeah.
And for you to be able to show her what a real man is, and how to treat people, it's just going to be the biggest thing ever for her. And the stuff that you're doing, not just for your daughter, but people locally, influentially, the way you influence, the way you plant seeds all over the place that you don't even know about. That's what this show's about. That's your hustle.
Yeah.
And we couldn't be more grateful to have guests like you on here. To me, this is as good as it gets because it keeps it green for me. And who knows, even if this episode helps one person, that's great, but I have a feeling it's going to help a lot more. I do. And if you're looking for help, like I said, Hero in the Fight, there's Dauphin and Cumberland County Drug and Alcohol. There's 12-step meetings all over the place. There's people that care. They want to help. So if you're looking for it, you can reach out to myself, Danny, anybody. We're here to help. You want to finish with anything?
Yeah. One last thing. Tonight, I'll pick my daughter up from school, right? We talk a lot about the past and where things are. I'll bring her home. She'll sleep in her own bedroom at my house. We're going to wake up, and a bunch of my friends are meeting at Dolphin Highlands Golf Course.
Oh, nice.
And we have 4 tee times, but there's 16 different people that are showing up to celebrate me, right?
For your anniversary.
For my anniversary. And my daughter's coming. One of my friends' sons is coming. Another friend's daughter's coming. A little over 7 years ago, like 16 people and my daughter, that's probably who would have showed up to my funeral.
Yeah. Wow.
And it's not the case today. And being celebrated while you're alive, that's why I try to celebrate other people.
Yeah.
Because so beautiful. So lucky to be able to experience that. Because I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
And that's why I know that there's a power greater than myself. Yep. I know I'm here for a reason. And I know my purpose is to help inspire other people and help other people. Amen. So I'm going to continue to do those things. And I appreciate you guys having me on this podcast.
Absolutely, man. Well, I just want to tell you that I respect it a lot. And I think that you are going to be the one that changes the family tree. And I think that that's really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you so much, Danny. This has been awesome. And just keep being that hero in the fight. We appreciate it.
Likewise.
Thanks, buddy.
Appreciate you.
Thanks, man.